Sooner fans, Longhorn Nation, welcome to episode 50 of the Bevo Podcast, the only podcast exclusively dedicated to covering the greatest rivalry in college football, the University of Texas and the University of Oklahoma. Kevin, 50 episodes of the Bevo Podcast. It feels like we started yesterday. It's a pretty big milestone, I think.
Yeah, man. Time flies, right? You're having fun. So it's been great. And here's the 50 more. Let's go.
Dude, I love it, man. Listen, speaking of the greatest rivalry in college football, we have the Big 12 basketball tournament starting tomorrow night. Oklahoma plays Oklahoma State for the right to play the number 2 seed Texas Longhorns on Thursday night. Kevin, what does Texas have to do to secure a number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament?
You know, part of me thinks they may already have it locked up. Honestly, as long as they don't have a poor showing. Here's the thing. If you guys win this game against Oklahoma State, we played twice this year, and Texas won both games by a combined 3 points, right?
Yep.
So...
And one in overtime, or was the first one wasn't in overtime, right?
The first one was not in overtime. The first one was the one here in Norman. And then the second one was down in Austin. And that one went to overtime. So, I mean, there hasn't been much separating those two teams against, at least when they play each other, right? So I can see a scenario where Texas goes out to Oklahoma in that second game, but I still think they can get a 2 seed even if that happens.
Well, the problem for Oklahoma is not the matchup with Texas, because I agree with you. For whatever reason, it's a good matchup, and you could have the proverbial third time to play a good team type situation, and maybe OU can sneak a win in. The problem is our matchup with Oklahoma State. We haven't matched up well with Oklahoma State at all in either of the two matchups, and nothing has materially changed in this one. So I worry that we can't get past Oklahoma State, but at the same time, Oklahoma has beaten 2 ranked teams out of the last 3 games. They're up and down. This is the same team that destroyed Alabama, and they will not make the NCAA tournament unless they win all the way out. I mean, Oklahoma is so confusing as a basketball team. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, Texas y'all have had ups and downs, but you're clearly a good basketball team. Your record indicates it. I don't even know. I mean, Oklahoma, if you just looked at the record, you'd have to say bad basketball team. But you said this in the last episode. When you watch Oklahoma play, they don't play particularly bad. And then some of their wins are really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't usually embarrass yourselves, but you've had a couple of games against bad teams where you just look like you're just really not interested. But in the bigger games against the best teams, you seem to play at your best, at least give your best effort. Sometimes it doesn't result in a win, right? But no one strolls out saying, oh, we got Oklahoma, it's going to be an easy win in basketball. So, but really, man, it's part of the course for this conference this year, right? I mean, we've seen this. Texas loses to TCU and Baylor. I mean, obviously, those are, I think, 2 of the best teams in the country. But they lose to those teams. They play Kansas, and you think, okay, well, they're going to definitely lose to Kansas, and they pretty much control the entire game from start to finish against Kansas, who I think is the best team in the country.
And yet Kansas wins the Big 12 regular season title yet again. I agree with you. They are the best team in the country. They're going to be a clear number 1 seed, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I mean, who else are we looking at that's going to challenge Kansas? Who will be the other number 1 seeds?
I think maybe Houston. I think the number 1 team in the country right now, as far as the polls go. Maybe UCLA, something like that. So, man, I'm just ready for the tournament. It's going to be fun. You were hearing all these teams, and one of them is not even going to make it past the first weekend.
Kelvin's watching Houston last year and again this year is like is like ongoing stab wounds that are non-lethal but hurt nonetheless every time I watch a Kelvin Sampson coach game, because you see how good a coach he is, how good a recruiter he is, and you think to yourself, if he stays at OU, the legacy that Oklahoma has over the years with a Kelvin Sampson versus, we went to an Elite Eight with Capel. I think that was all Blake Griffin. We went to a Final Four with Buddy Hield. But even despite those successes, I think with the Kelvin Sampson-led team, we would have been a different level of program over the course of the last 15, 20 years.
And I mean, how many did he just go to the one Final Four? How deep did you go on that team with Nahara?
Elite Eight, lost to Michigan State.
Okay. And then you made the Final Four with Hollis Price, right? And was it 2001?
2002.
2002, right? Okay.
Yeah. Lost to Indiana, and we should have beat Indiana.
Yeah.
Which is this, that's the story of Oklahoma basketball is should-haves. We should have beat Villanova in 2016. We did beat them in the regular season. We should have beat Indiana that year. We were probably playing some of the best ball in the country. And then, of course, the coup de grace, we should have beat Kansas. There was no reason to lose to Kansas in 1988, which we'd had a national championship.
Oh, the Danny Manning team, right?
Danny and the Miracles.
A little bit before my time. Now, there were some really good players, right, on that OU team.
Dude, are you kidding me? Yeah. Mookie Blaylock, Stacey King, Harvey Grant. They were fantastic. It was
3 NBA players.
Ricky Grace was another point guard. I feel like Ricky Grace was drafted too. I can never remember the white guy on that team. It's a little before my time, but I still just remember I was 10, right? So old enough to be cognizant of what was happening, old enough to be excited. I know we beat Arizona in the Final Four game, or to get to the Final Four.
Arizona with Sean Elliott?
Sean Elliott, exactly right. Yes.
Steve Kerr on that team too?
What's that?
Was Steve Kerr on that team too with him?
He might have been. I don't like Steve Kerr anymore. Sean Elliott, though, my favorite Spur of all time. I love Sean Elliott. You'll never talk me out of Sean Elliott being my favorite Spur of all time.
Really? Your favorite Spur of all time?
It's not even close. Wow. Sean Elliott's – oh, yeah.
Okay.
By far and away my favorite Spur of all time. And
I love Sean Elliott, man, but, no one compares to David Robinson and Duncan to me.
Dude, listen, I love David Robinson, and I loved Avery Johnson, right? Because he was the anti-Rod Strickland. So I loved Avery Johnson. And, it's hard for me to say that anybody loved Tim Duncan. I mean, he was just a very stoic figure. I respected the heck out of him. I like Ginobili way more than
Duncan.
Like, give me Ginobili every day. I thought Ginobili was so fun to watch play back. I mean, he was.
Oh yeah, he's one of the most enjoyable players to watch.
Oh,
really, probably in NBA history. I mean, he was a joy to watch for sure.
And I tell you, a player that I like. I know you liked him. A player that I liked. Can you think of who I'm thinking of? A player that I liked, you liked, every Spurs fan liked, and everybody else hated. Beyond.
Oh, yeah. You talking about Bruce Bowen?
Bruce Bowen. What a stud. I love Bruce Bowen, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
a great example of a player who didn't have a ton of natural talent, but really carving himself into a long career, being a great defender and then developing that corner three. He had a great career, man.
Sean Elliott, though, man, Sean Elliott was just like the best guy, though. He was such a great guy. He hit some big shots. You forget some of those big shots. I think of like a Memorial Day game in the playoffs.
Yeah, 1999 against the Portland Trailblazers.
And he hits that, and his heels were on the out of bounds line.
Correct. If his heels come down, he's out of bounds.
Absolutely,
so he's on his tiptoes.
I mean, that shot for me is one of the greatest shots in Spurs history, and I'm just so happy it was Sean Elliott. Anyway, we just went off the rails. My point being, though, Oklahoma has to play well. All right, we have to play well. We got to beat Oklahoma State. I mean, look, the only way Oklahoma gets in is they got to win it out, and I don't know. I don't know how Oklahoma can do it in this conference. I think any of the 4 teams that we would have to beat, we could beat on a 1-game basis. But we're not beating 4 of them. I hope I'm wrong, but it's not happening, right? I mean, come on.
It doesn't seem likely, man. It doesn't seem likely. It's disappointing because going into the season, you would think that was a team that was at least capable of finishing in the top half in the conference and getting into the tournament, right? I mean, what do you think? We send seven. The conference sends what, 7 teams?
Yeah. And you just think a lot. You always see really rapid improvement in year 2. It's kind of like Sark football. Year 2 is always where you anticipate seeing the biggest growth. And you look at a Porter Moser coach team and you say to yourself, you know what I mean? Is this all it's going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Because the old, build your classes, that stuff does not exist. It might not have existed in college basketball for the last 20 years. So it's absolutely not true now. I mean, you can go remake your team in a year with who you want it to be. And
with the transfer portal.
So I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to feel about Moser. I love the energy. I love the optimism. All of those things are positive, but dude, at the end of the day, you got to win some games.
You got to win, right? I mean, because Texas, it sounds like Texas with, maybe like a Charlie Strong, right? Everybody likes the guy, and we're not there yet with Moser. So I don't want to put that comparison too deep, but he's a guy that everybody likes. But it's like, man, you got to win, right? No matter how likable you are, no matter what, you got to win.
I think the problem with Charlie Strong is even Oklahoma fans like Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Yeah. Like, you can't be that likable. That there's this issue there.
Correct. You don't want to be Tom Herman.
No, you don't want to be Tom. No,
your own fans hate, and everybody around you hates. But you don't want to be Charlie Strong either. You want to be in the middle. Like, I think Sark's a happy median with that.
Is Charlie Strong? Is he now a defensive analyst with Alabama again? Did I see that?
I believe he is. I think I heard that he is back there. What was he, the defensive coordinator? Was he at Miami last year or something like that? Where was he at? I don't know. Where he was.
Somewhere in Florida. I don't know if it was Miami. Yeah. Somewhere in Florida. But he's always been around Florida.
Yeah.
But is he an Urban Meyer guy?
Yes, he was the defensive coordinator on both of those national championship teams in 06 and 08.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then he spun that to becoming the head coach at Louisville.
I was on the radio last week for just a very quick minute talking about the tornadoes in Norman. We'll talk a little bit more about those when we talk about Brown O'Haver. But Tyler McComas from the Ref asked me who my most hated team was in college football history. I'll ask you the same question, so think about it while I give my answer. It was 2008 Florida. I mean, that's a horrible team. That's a horrible collection of individuals. Urban Meyer, Aaron Hernandez.
Let me stop you real quick.
Oh,
so you hate the 08 Florida Gators more than you hate any Texas team?
Well, yes, just because I don't know that. First of all, I hate Texas. We know this. As a program,
that's why we're here.
One specific team, one specific year. Yeah, I think I might hate. Yes, good question. I'm glad you asked it, but I'm going to stick with my answer. 2008. Urban Meyer is like the worst. He's the most horrible coach in the world as a person,
as a guy,
coach. Yeah. Just the whole general attitude. Letting co-ed sit on his hands. I mean, the whole thing. Grandkids are in the next room. I don't know. I don't even understand it. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Aaron Hernandez is out killing people. Tim Tebow is giving varsity blues level speeches in the game at halftime, which just make me cringe. I don't know. I hate him. I hate that team. I hate that team so bad. Who does outside of any Oklahoma team is there? Just if in the span of college football, who's the most hated college football team?
I would have to really think about that, right? Because every team, and again, I think part of this is the result of the 08 national championship game plays a factor into this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, I mean, part of me wants to say the 08 Texas Tech team, but really, they weren't really any bad guys on that team, right? I mean, Michael Crabtree was a stud. Harrow was a great player. So there's nobody.
Leach. Everybody loved Leach.
Yeah,
Leach was a great coach.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have to think about that, man. But that '08 team, and their fans will tell you that that's one of the best teams in college football history. And I disagree. I disagree with that because I can't call you one of the greatest teams of all time if you lost a home game to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
And this is not Ole Miss, not the Ole Miss that's beating Alabama, and not that Ole Miss. We're talking about '08 Ole Miss with Jevin Sneed at quarterback, former Texas player who transferred there. They weren't good. They went into the swamp and they beat Florida, and that's when Tim Tebow gave that "I promise" speech after the game that you were kind of referring to.
Yeah,
no, man, you can't be one of the greatest teams of all time if you lose at home to Ole Miss. Now they had some studs, though. I will say that.
No, listen.
I mean,
they were
they're ultra talented.
They were ultra talented. But I agree with you. I don't think anybody says name the best 3 teams in the last 25 years. I don't think anybody says '08 Florida.
No, I can't. Even with their talent, man, you can't lose at home to Ole Miss and be on that list.
No,
it just can't happen.
Listen, so basically what we've talked about so far in this podcast is that Sean Elliott is at the pinnacle of sportsmanship and awesomeness, and 2008 Florida is the exact opposite of Sean Elliott. Is that about right?
Sums it up.
Fair enough. Before we talk about spring football and all the goings on, specifically at Austin right now, since they've already started spring football and a little bit of OU, I do want to take the time to mention our sponsor, Brown O'Haver, and specifically the work that we are doing in Norman, Oklahoma. Norman got hit by a tornado last week, EF2. But if you've been to some of those folks' homes like we have, Kevin specifically has been in one all week. I've been in and out of homes and businesses over the last week. A lot of that damage sure doesn't feel like an EF2. It feels like a real big dog tornado. Homes are really tore up. People are out of their houses. It's a bad deal down there. But Brown O'Haver, we've engaged with a lot of clients. We've been hired already, and we're already at work. Specifically, this man over here on the right, Kevin Miller, has been working his tail off for us as well as the rest of our adjusters and staff. But basically, the reason why we're working so hard is because we're adjusters for the insured, not the insurance company. So we want to make sure everybody and anybody who suffered a loss knows that there's an option out there to hire their own adjuster and to make sure they get paid the full and fair value of the settlement. And the biggest thing, Kevin, and you can attest to some of this with some of the people you've met this week, it's a traumatic time, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. To deal with that stress and how scary that situation was, a tornado popped up really quickly. One of our clients, he was asleep when it happened. He was awakened by his roof being torn off of his home.
Yeah, it's insane. And so, yeah, you can't. I mean, I don't want to like embellish the stories, but the story speaks for themselves. I mean, it's crazy. And so people are going through a lot. They're dealing with a lot. The last thing they need to deal with is the insurance claim. Hand it over to Brown O'Haver. Let us take care of you. Let us work for you, not the insurance company. Unfortunately or fortunately, if you're looking for an experience, we've been through these tornadoes before. We've been through more in 2013, more in 2015. The tornado out in Seminole, the tornado in Idabel. We know how to work insurance claims for tornadoes. So if you or someone you know has been affected, give Brown O'Haver a call, 405-735-5510. Kevin, news from Sark yesterday after the first day of spring football. The quarterback competition between Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers is officially an open competition. This is not a guaranteed spot for Quinn, and they are going to have to duke it out in the spring and potentially in the fall. Do you buy this, or do you think that Sark is full of crap?
Okay.
It's one or the other, Kevin. It's one or the other. You either buy it or he's full of crap.
I don't
try to hedge around it.
No, I'm not.
So you're saying he's full of crap. You're saying your coach is full of crap.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think what he's trying to do is light a fire under Quinn. All right. There are reports from Austin last year that Quinn wasn't exactly the hardest worker. He didn't spend a lot of time diving into the playbook. You saw his mechanics were so inconsistent. And the thing about it is, Arch, while I don't think he's anywhere near being ready to play right now, but he is going to work. He's a Manning, right? He's his whole life he's been in the Manning Passing Academy, working those camps. He just knows how to grind. He knows how to prepare. So even though he may not be as talented as Quinn, and I don't think he is as talented as Quinn, but he is going to work. So this is a kind of a wake up call to Quinn Ewers. It's like, hey man, look, you got to step up your game when it comes to the preparation, or you're going to get passed up.
I want to play devil's advocate to your take that Sark is full of crap. Okay. I want to say, what have you seen from Quinn Ewers that tells you he's the guaranteed starter?
Well, I think he just...
well, let me finish. I just don't know. I just don't know that there's anything. If he didn't have 5-star Quinn Ewers, if this was Hudson Card's stat line, right? If this was Hudson Card's stat line, if he had the exact same stats, you would be begging for an open competition.
Here's the thing, right? He was essentially a true freshman last year.
I don't buy that.
I expect him to get better.
I don't buy that. He was at Ohio State for an entire year playing scout team quarterback with one of the best against one of the best defenses in the country. Against really talented guys.
Their defense was horrible. They fired their defensive coordinator after that year.
Yeah, but they still got studs, though. You'll agree that
they've got some dudes.
The 11 guys starting at Ohio State are pretty good defensive players that he was going up against day in and day out.
Some talented defensive players.
So yes. I do not agree with the premise that he was a true freshman. He was every bit a redshirt freshman. I believe he deserved the job. I believe he won the job. I believe he's better than Hudson Card. I'm just saying, if Arch Manning is who we and Texas think he is, I think he should have a legitimate shot at unseating Quinn Ewers just based on performance, not potential, performance.
Hey, I hear the argument, but I expect Quinn Ewers to be a lot better. I just think he's a young player. We saw flashes of greatness and we saw flashes of inconsistency. It's what we see out of young players, right? When's the last time we had a freshman quarterback just come in and just light up the world? It's just very, very rare as a true freshman.
Was Ellinger a true freshman when he played?
He was a true freshman. He
didn't light it up either, though. I would agree.
He did. He was up and down, right? He did show he was more consistent than Quinn was, but again, you have to take the running element into it too, right? If it was just him dropping back and passing, may have been a little bit rough for Sam. But the fact that he was a power runner and did such a good job with that, and plus he was tough, so he kind of earned the respect of his teammates and all the fans with his toughness. So
I mean, we've talked a lot about it on this podcast, where I will contend that a lot of Quinn's shortcomings can be laid at the feet of Sark, right? He did not always put him in the positions to succeed, especially when you had number 5. He'd been handing the ball off to a considerable amount of more times per game than he did. Instead, he put the ball in the hands of Quinn. I think inflated some of his negative passing numbers, incompletions, interceptions, whatever. But I still think that Quinn Ewers, if you just look at the stat line and take the quote-unquote eye test away from it, I still think you would say if this was any other quarterback, you would want Arch Manning to have a wide-open shot. I don't know. That's the way I see
here's
the race.
Thing. I want Arch to have a shot. I just don't think he's ready. Don't think he's ready. And I think Quinn, with his talent, and if what I'm hearing, that he has stepped up and he is working harder and he is taking it more seriously, I expect major improvements from him this year.
Speaking about number 5, Bijan Robinson, whether you'd say he improved his draft stock at the combine or not, I don't know. But I do think he solidified it for sure. He's definitely going to be the first running back taken. The latest Todd McShay mock draft has him at 10 to Philadelphia. Is there a better spot in all 31 teams than to be the running back at Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts?
I mean, The only one will be, Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid drawing up plays, right? But
That would be it, right? I mean, I don't
That's
know.
it. Yeah. No, it's a perfect fit. Coming from somebody who can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles and especially their fans, it will be a great spot for him. They could take advantage of him running the ball and receiving. And then can you imagine them running the zone read with him and Jalen Hurts? I mean, pick your poison if you're the defense.
Well, and Jalen Hurts, as far as slinging the ball around, I think he would they would absolutely use Bijan in the passing game. I think you'd get the full complement of Bijan Robinson. It just seems like a very weird, not weird. I don't know why I said that. It just seems perfect. It seems like a perfect match.
Yeah.
And if I'm Bijan, I'm like begging to be picked 10th. I think the last thing you'd want to do is get picked to a team that doesn't value the running game nearly as much as Philadelphia, let alone has an offensive line like Philadelphia does. I mean, it's a perfect storm.
And also, I don't think he wants to go to one of those teams that's going to, because some teams, they'll get him and they'll run him 30, 35 times a game because he's just that talented, right? Which will lead to a short career, but an incredibly productive career, but it'll be a short career. If he goes to Philadelphia, they'll have other backs too. I don't think they'll grind him like that.
Now, let me throw
it's really a perfect fit.
Let me throw one at you of a team that I think would actually make sense for that very reason. Let me see where they're picking. I was looking this up earlier, but there's a team at 11. 11. There's a team at 11, the Tennessee Titans. How nice would it be for him to be the number 2 back behind
Derrick Henry?
Behind Derrick Henry. Because Derrick Henry, he's only got, I would, at most, right? I mean, he's not Adrian Peterson. That dude's not running for the next 10 years. He's got 2 or 3 or 4 good years left. If he could be the number 2 back with Derrick Henry, as much as they want to run the ball, that could be an interesting spot for Bijan.
If you had them, you never throw the ball.
Well, they barely throw the
Bijan Robinson is. I know, but with
they
him,
barely
they would
threw the ball.
Never throw
one of them. Yeah.
No, they would never. It would look like Oklahoma in the 80s.
Dude, I'd love it. I'd be there for it. I think they would be. It would be a beast of a backfield, man. It really would. But it doesn't. It's not like it doesn't make that much sense. Like if their offense is already predicated on running the ball,
it does make sense. Here's my thing about Bijan Robinson, right? As good as he was for Texas, we have not seen him at his best. The Texas offensive line really struggled, especially his freshman and sophomore years. They were a little bit better last year during his junior year, and we saw the type of season that he had. If he goes to a decent NFL team, or at least one with a decent offensive line, I honestly believe he will be one of the best running backs in the NFL as a rookie. That's how good I think he is. I think he can do everything.
So not one of the best inside. Not one of the best rookie running backs, but one of the best running backs just one of the best running backs.
Pro Bowl level running back as a rookie.
Okay, let's let real quick. Who would be better than him?
I mean,
is Mixon better than him?
I think they're very similar from a talent standpoint and what some of the things that they do. Mixon is bigger. I think he's about 10 or 15 pounds bigger than him. I think they have similar speed. I don't like the way Cincinnati uses him. I don't think they utilize Mixon's skills in the passing game like Lincoln Riley did.
They didn't even utilize
it. It drives me crazy real quick when I watch him play.
They barely utilized him against Kansas City. They rolled out Samaje the whole time. By the way, real quick, shout out.
Be a big part of the game plan.
Real quick, shout out to Samaje P. Ryan. He was at the girls' soccer game this past weekend, and I said, "Hey, Samaje, great game against Kansas City. I was rooting for you, bud. You played great." And he was like, "Thanks, man." I felt really good about it. I felt really good about it, Kevin.
Yeah, you should.
It felt great.
You should have felt good about that. Yeah,
it's
always nice to compliment.
He's honestly one of the nicest guys in the world. He's just really pleasant. He's friends with one of the parents on the team, and he's been to games before, so that's not a big deal. But anyway, so I digress. But I just think about I guess your running back, the running back for Kansas City. I just think it's an interesting time for running backs, I guess is my point. is where I think Bijan can come in. I guess Saquon Barkley. Is he going to be better than Saquon Barkley? That's who we're missing.
I think
That's
he
who
could
we're
be just as
overlooking.
good as Saquon Barkley. I think he could be that good. I mean, you look at the best running backs, right? McCaffrey, right?
He's
Christian
not going to
McCaffrey.
be. He won't be McCaffrey yet. He
Maybe
won't
not
be
as a
McCaffrey
rookie,
yet.
but I think he has similar talent. He doesn't have as much speed, top end speed, as McCaffrey does, but I think he has as much power, if not more. I think he's shifty like that. He can run inside. He can run outside. He can catch it. He can run routes. I think he can be as good as Nick Chubb or Dalvin Cook.
Here's another one. I don't know. We're not going to spend way much more time on this, but where does Denver pick? Wouldn't it be cool to see him getting coached up by
You know what? I don't know if Denver has a first round pick because of that Russell Wilson trade.
Oh,
yeah.
I was thinking if you had Sean Payton coaching him up, but yeah, you're right. You might be right. All right.
I think Seattle is going to have their pick. So
Sooners in the combine. Eric Gray looked good. I don't think it did enough to bump him anywhere, but he looked good. It looks like Anton Harrison, though, has a chance, according to Todd McShay, to go in the first round, which would be a big win. Every time OU can get an offensive lineman drafted, it's a win. It's a win for recruiting every single year. And so the difference between being drafted 30 or 31 and 32 is just huge, right? It's like get drafted. And so there's a real chance that he gets drafted. Wanye Morris, so I was telling you, I guess you didn't see this. Dude, he blew his hamstring out. I don't know how serious it was, but it didn't look good when he was running the 40 on his second run.
Well, hopefully he's okay, right? I've always been a fan of his talent going back to when he was a recruit and he signed with Tennessee. I know he has some injury stuff this season too with OU, but I hope he does well, recovers from this, and has a good NFL career. Anton Harrison, like you said, I do think he has a chance to go in the first round. But how about Marvin Mims? He ran in a 4.3s at the combine. I remember we were wondering what he was going to run. Yeah, he ran into 4.3s. Man, I think he might go in the second round.
I hope he does. If he doesn't, I still think this is one example of Stain would have got him a better spot. I think it would have. But
yeah, sometimes
but you know what?
That go, man.
Hey, you know what? The combine, it does give guys an opportunity to jump ahead of the pack. And what was interesting to me, not OU or Texas, but Big 12, was Quentin Johnston was constantly being ranked as like the third or fourth best receiver. But the latest McShay draft has him as the first receiver off the board. I find it hard to believe that he's not the best pro prospect, but you're not as sold on that. I mean, I think you're sold on Quentin Johnston, but not necessarily that he's the best pro prospect in this class.
Yeah, I think we've seen a trend over the last few years, right? The guys who come into the league and have the most success right away are the guys who are the best route runners, right? The guys like the Cooper Kupps, Justin Jefferson. These guys come in and they are really polished route runners out of college, and it just translates right away, right? Devontae Smith coming out of Alabama, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Quentin Johnston is more of a height, weight, speed guy. Now, again, we've seen with like a DK Metcalf, you can still be that and be very successful right away. But from a volume standpoint, as far as coming in and being the number one receiver on the team, usually we're seeing the route runners. So guys like a Jordan Addison, somebody who I think might have a quicker impact as far as being a number one receiver on the team, more than Quentin Johnston, even though he's a freak, right? 6'4", 215, great speed.
Yeah, I think I'm just hypnotized by the size and speed combination. I think about you didn't get to see it against Georgia. So we'll try to erase that game from our minds, but just against Ohio State, he was killing it. I mean, he was running away. I mean, not Ohio State, against Michigan. He was running away from their DBs on numerous plays. And anyway, speaking of, position battles, y'all have the position battle, Arch versus Quinn. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. I think the biggest one that Oklahoma is looking at is running back, RB1. And I think the easiest one is to think it's just going to be Javonte Barnes. But Jeff Lebby keeps mentioning Marcus Major. And I got to tell you, Kevin, anybody that has listened to the Boomer Bevo podcast knows that I was the president emeritus of the Marcus Major fan club.
No,
I just don't see us.
He was your guy.
I don't. What's that?
He was definitely your guy going into last season, even all through the season. Yeah, you wouldn't let it go. I was like, dude, man, Eric Gray's a guy.
He was he was the flyer that I would. Well, he wasn't. I don't even think early on he was the flyer. I think early on I was really convinced he was the guy, and then it became kind of just a running joke of how bad that decision was, like how clearly better Eric Gray was. But I can't get over what I saw last year, which is just a complete lack of production and a lack of spark or anything. And then I got to tell you, if it's just recency bias, Gavin Sawchuk is the kid that has me excited. With what Lebby did with Eric Gray, I think Sawchuk is simply a better version of Eric Gray.
We'll see, man. First of all, I love his speed, right? I think he's got the speed to break away from almost any defense in college football, right? But I thought Eric Gray did a really good job. I want to see how he catches the ball. I think that's what separated Eric Gray from the other backs on the team last year was his ability as a receiver.
Sure.
So if he can develop that, I think he'll be great. I love Barnes as being the number one guy. He's a guy who can get 20 to 25 carries a game, no problem. And then you bring in Sawchuk once the defense is worn down and you can get an 80-yard touchdown. So I think looking at OU's offense, it's really good that you guys have Dylan Gabriel coming back. I know the fans are crazy excited about Jackson Arnold. I get that. But I do think it's kind of like with Arch and Quinn, I still think that Dylan Gabriel is the guy this season. I do think Jackson Arnold will play, and I think he'll have an impact. But anyway, yeah, I'm excited to see those running backs, Sawchuk and Barnes. It should be fun, man. What do you think? How do you think Marcus Major fits into all that?
I don't think he fits in at all. I mean, I really and maybe there's a part of me saying this just to maybe kind of like throw out some reverse psychology to myself, right? And anybody that's listening, but listen, man, he's a local Oklahoma kid. It's like all this stuff we've talked about over the years. He's a local Oklahoma kid. He's a big, strong looking dude. When he does run the ball well, he looks really good, but the production, it's just not there. It just was not there. Eric Gray was so much more productive. And then Javonte Barnes came along and was even that much more productive than even Marcus Major was early on. In his third year, I can't envision a scenario in my brain where he breaks into that rotation with any regularity.
Let me say this, right? With some players, it takes them a few years just to get it.
4 years, Kevin, for the running. 4 years for a running back.
There may be other factors off the field that may have contributed. Remember, he had the academic thing. So he's got a chance, right? I mean, he's not talking for nothing, Coach Lebby, right? Maybe he's trying to motivate the kid. I don't know. But I hope he does well. But it's difficult when you look at the talent that he has coming up behind him. These guys are younger, and they're hungry.
Well,
are you concerned at all, though, real quick? Right, I know you're gonna say Sawchuk with his speed and how good he looked in the bowl game.
Exactly. Yeah,
I love the talent, right? And again, like he just wasn't ready early in the season. Right, I'm sure some fans might say, "Well, why wasn't he playing all year? He probably just wasn't ready." Right? No coaches.
Well, and you had Eric Gray. Who?
But I mean, I think his speed could have made a difference. He probably wasn't ready though, right? He maybe didn't know how to pass protect,
right?
All that, because it's more than just handing a kid the football at running back, right? But
if you're not Adrian Peterson, yes, there's more.
Hand him the ball and get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Just one thing on Adrian Peterson, right? I mean, just think about that. The fact that OU was running the air raid, and Bob Stoops was like, you know what, we're going to the I formation to get this guy running downhill,
and not just the I formation, the deep I. Remember how far back?
He's like 8 yards back. 8 yards back because he shot out of a cannon.
He was like back there getting ready to get a field goal kick, flipped to him. I mean, it was.
And here's the crazy thing about that, real quick, is that you're not just changing the air raid. You're changing the air raid with a Heisman quarterback.
Yeah.
And you had Mark Clayton and Mark Bradley at wide receiver, Travis Wilson too. And you say, no. We're running out of the I formation despite having this incredible passing game. That's how special that running back was.
Well, we talked about this when we talked about Bob Stoops last summer in one of our really early episodes. Is Bob, for all of his defensive pedigree, was very flexible on the offensive side of the ball. He was willing to go. He was willing to do different things, try different things. He didn't come in with a preconceived notion. Obviously, he went with Leach, which sounds brilliant now, but it wasn't a for sure thing in 1999 that you bring in weirdo Mike Leach to be an offensive coordinator. I mean, that wasn't a guaranteed thing. And then to make the tough call to get rid of Josh Heupel, who's clearly a good coach. We've seen that now, and bring in a Lincoln Riley. Stoops he was very flexible offensively, and I think it speaks to his. He kind of always comes across as kind of that hard-edged old-time football coach, but I think there's a lot more flexibility than he typically is given credit for.
No, I completely agree, and it was really unconventional to do that because most defensive coaches, they say, hey, listen, we're going to run the ball, we're going to control the clock, we'll play good defense, and that's how we'll win. Nick Saban was like that, right?
Yeah,
all those
and it worked
first
for him.
few years until Texas A&M came up there and brought Johnny Manziel, and they put up 40, and they said, okay, no, we got to keep up with these teams now. But it took that happening for him to change his mind. Kirby Smart is barely now just starting to open up their offense at Georgia, right? We saw him. This is a guy who chose, we talked about this a lot, who chose Jake Fromm over Justin Fields, right? We're starting to see that, but I give Stoops credit because he said, no, I want the guy who I could stop. Whoever I had the most trouble stopping as a defensive coordinator, that's the guy I want calling my offense when I'm a first-time head coach. So, it was brilliant by him, and like we said, very unconventional.
And then when you do get an Adrian Peterson, you're willing to throw the playbook out and go, okay, we just had the best athlete in the country, so somebody come and try to stop us.
We got to do what's best for him. Got to put your players in the best position to be successful, right? So, shout out to Bob for doing that.
I have not kept up with the Arlington. Are they the Renegades?
I believe.
I've watched a little bit, but I have not kept up with them. How are they doing? Do you know?
I don't.
I think are they 2-0? They might be 2-0.
Man, I've watched a few minutes of the XFL. Honestly, man, I haven't watched a lot of it. I think it's cool to see those guys being able to play football still. I think it's great for them. I just haven't watched a lot of it.
I only watch Arlington if they're on. Like if it's Bob Stoops, I know that sounds weird. It's a weird thing to say. But if Bob Stoops is on, I'll watch it. Like if it's, you know what I mean? But I don't know. I have a hard time getting excited about anybody else.
Real quick, man, I wanted to go back to Oklahoma. We're talking about the spring football. Are you concerned at all about the wide receiver position for OU?
No. I think Farouk is going to be our clear number one.
Okay.
I think you're going to start to see the younger guys come in. I worry. The only thing I worry about is that possession receiver that Drake Stoops was over the years. Like we're going to need.
He's back.
I don't think so. No, he had a senior night. Surely, he's not back, is he? No.
I don't know. I don't know, man.
You got me questioning this now.
He might be on the Jordan Shipley plan.
Oh, I think he's gone. Surely he's gone.
I don't know. Let's see.
Now I'm almost positive he's gone, but now you've got me questioning myself, and people on the podcast are going to be like yelling, he's gone, you idiot. Like, I know he's gone, but Kevin's got me stressed out. I can't tell. What are you seeing?
It seems like a guy oh no, he's back. Yeah.
He's back?
On 3. This is December 26th of last year. There's Oklahoma wide receiver Drake Stoops to return to Oklahoma. Yeah.
Well,
so
then I feel
his COVID year.
Now all of a sudden I feel a whole lot better then. And you know what, dude? It's so weird because like this whole COVID thing has totally messed up who should be going and what their eligibility was. Like when
Correct.
Braden Willis came out and said, "I'm going to the and if I'm declaring," I'm thinking to myself,
Like
well,
declaring. Like you
what are
still
you
have
talking about
eligibility in
declaring?
that?
You've graduated. You
Yeah,
can't
you've been here
declare.
5 years.
And so it's just, yes. So I apologize to Drake. I know you're listening. You're like, man, you should know this. Yeah, I should. Dude, feels like the guy's been there forever. I feel good about him. And I think Stogner, as good as Braden Willis was, and I like Braden Willis, I think Stogner is a better receiving tight end, which I think will help out your receiver. I think it's going to help out the other receivers. It'll be interesting to me to see who comes up in receiver number 2. You know what I mean, on the opposite of Farouk.
Yeah, who's going to be the playmaker? And that's what Mims was, right? If you needed a huge play in the passing game the last 2 years,
that's who
he's been that guy.
That's what he was supposed to be. First of all, he had some big plays, but man, we needed some more of them.
Huge plays. I know he had some weird issues with drops last year, but he was still really, really good for y'all last year. It's a big loss. Was there some frustration amongst the fan base with him?
Yes.
And was it something other than the drops, or was it just the drops?
I think it was just the drops. I think it was just the drops. I think it's that simple. Here's the thing, people, we lost Theo Wees too, right? He's gone.
Yes.
And I think we expected more from him. I think if anything, I think there was more frustration with the Theo Wees than there was even with Marvin Mims. I think we just all expected him to be better. I think what you're looking at this year is you're looking at Jaden Gibson, right? You're looking at Jaden Gibson, Trayvon West, and maybe Nick Anderson if he can stay healthy. Those are the 3 that you're saying, okay, who comes in opposite of Farouk and alongside Stoops and alongside Stogner? Like that's the question. And I think it's going to come from one of those 3 players.
Okay.
But
from
no,
an outsider perspective, the receiver position to me would be the concern. Just looking at OU's team, I like the running back. I think the offensive line, although you lose both tackles, I think you got some guys coming up that can fill that void. But receiver, I think, would be my biggest concern.
We got guys coming up, and we've got good transfers. The kid out of Stanford and stuff like that. I think the offensive. Yeah. I feel really good about the offensive line.
It's receiver for me. If you had to pick one position, I mean, Marvin Mims last year, 54 catches, 1,083 yards, and 6 touchdowns, 20 yards a catch. Third in the country. This is a big play receiver, man.
I will agree. Okay, look,
catches over the years.
I will agree with you that from a production standpoint, so when Riley left and we lost Hazel, and maybe Hazelwood would have left anyway. I mean, I saw Jaden Hazelwood was at the combine this weekend. The production we lost was like 400 yards and like 3 touchdowns or something. You know what I mean? It just wasn't that much. And then the same thing with Mario Williams. It was like 500 yards, a couple touchdowns.
It was more his talent, his upside.
Everything was the potential.
Same with Weiss. Yeah,
But Mims, though, you're right. Mims is real live yardage, like yardage and touchdowns, and been there, done that. No, listen, I wish he would have stayed. I think it would have helped him to stay, and it definitely would have helped the team. At the same time, he's, we're not talking about replacing Sterling Shepard, okay? Or why is my mind going blank today? Or any of our old-time receivers, Mark Clayton. We're not replacing Mark Clayton. We're not replacing Sterling Shepard. Ryan Broyles, that's the other guy I was thinking about. We're not even replacing CD Lamb, right? Those aren't the guys we're replacing. We're replacing a really nice receiver, but I think we've got some talented guys behind him. They're going to come up. Is that fair? Does that make sense? Or am I being a little,
I think it's
fair. I'm being a little roast?
Well, I think you might be underestimating how good Marvin Mims actually was for y'all. I'm not saying you don't have guys. You have talent. You're Oklahoma. You have players.
When you come off,
but I'm just saying
when you come off of a 6-7 record, and the number of drops that he had that contributed to that 6-7 record, it's not hard for me to say, all right, good luck in the league. Like I love you, but let's try somebody else.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Who's y'all's biggest? Where's your biggest area of need at Texas? I mean, where are you going to be focused on?
Oh, man, a lot of places.
Running back. It's got to be running back, right?
Especially, yeah, for sure. I mean, you lose two guys who are going to be drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds of the NFL draft, right? Again, there's talent there, but we don't know what we have on the field. Jonathan Brooks is likely going to be the starter, at least to start the season. It's going to be his 3rd year. Again, he's a talented guy. He's just been buried in the depth chart. I think the best game he had was against Kansas on the road this year. I think he had like 100-something yards off like 9 carries, including a big 77-yard run. He'll be first up. And then we've got Jaden Blue, who's a sophomore or maybe a redshirt freshman even from Houston. He's a talented guy. But they've got this kid, Cedric Baxter. He's depending on what recruiting service you look at, he's a 5-star or a very high 4-star running back from Florida. So he's the most talented one out of the 3. And he is there on campus for the spring. So we'll see how quickly he can pick things up. How long before he can win the job out, because he's, like I said, he's the most talented one. So that's where they're at with running back. I think that'll be good at receiver.
What's going to be weird? It's going to be weird when, regardless of who wins the starting job at quarterback, you think it's going to be Quinn. So with Quinn Ewers, it'll be very interesting to see if it would be a very Sark thing to do for him to run the ball more with these running backs than he did last year with Roschon and Bijan. That would be like the most Sark. That would be the most Sark thing to do is to keep Quinn Ewers under 25 attempts a game and really pound the rock with 3 not as good running backs. I'm not saying they're not good, but they're not as good as the 2 you had last year.
I don't care who we have coming in. They're not as good as Bijan or even Roschon. Yeah.
Well, dude, Roschon's yards per carry were just ridiculous last year. That guy he was almost like a guaranteed first down. I mean, and Sark would give him the ball 7 or 8 times a game. It would just, I don't know. I loved it. I loved it from a frustrating standpoint. You're probably a Texas fan,
so trust me.
So it'll be interesting to see. I could just see Sark doing that, and all of a sudden we look down at the stat sheet and we're like, what? 41 carries for the running backs this year? You know what I mean? It just to me, it's just seems like an incredible Sark thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get over that the Oklahoma State deal. Having Quinn throw 49 times or whatever. And
what about the TCU
horrible
game?
Weather.
What about the TCU game?
Yeah, that too. But the Oklahoma State was even more frustrating for me, man. Just being on the road and the way that Bijan was running the ball. And to have him throw in that bad weather 49 times, and he just didn't have it that day.
Against an Oklahoma State. Yeah, it was really windy that game. Against an Oklahoma State defense, it wasn't like that stout. So you had the lead. You just run the game out. Jeez Louise.
Yeah. He just didn't have it that day, and he just kept throwing and kept throwing and kept throwing. It was clear that, no, he's just not on today, right? Players have those games where it don't matter how hard they try, it's just not going to work for them. It's not their day.
Kevin, this was episode 50. It was pretty solid. I don't know if it was our best, definitely not our worst. But I'm excited for episode 51. Hopefully, it's talking about Oklahoma running through the Big 12 tournament and getting into the March Madness. At a minimum, it's going to be about where UT is going to be seated in the tournament. I think that y'all could be poised for a really good run. So that's going to be fun to watch. And then we're coming into the Diamond Sports. Baseball is going to be huge again for both Texas and Oklahoma. Softball is already off to a start that's just unbelievable. It's a nice time of year right now to be an Oklahoma fan and a Texas fan. Outside of basketball,
for sure.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think we need to do a golf preview. That might be what we do next time is dig a little deeper into golf. But this was a good episode. I'm excited about it. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, Texas and OU's women's basketball teams sharing the Big 12 championship.
Yes. And that is with Oklahoma pissing off Oklahoma State on their home court. Did you see how mad they were about it?
I didn't see what actually happened. I did see their coach in their press conference. Seemed like she wasn't happy, or she seemed a little confused as to why they were celebrating on the court.
She was incredibly pissy.
Yeah.
They
just won a conference title. I mean, what do you expect?
Her answer, I didn't think they did that at this level. I don't even know what that means. Like, what are you trying to insinuate? That like you're supposed to just win a conference championship and just walk off the court and shake hands in line and just politely walk to this? It doesn't make sense to me.
It's weird. Yeah. I mean, that's what you do. And I mean, was she upset because it was their senior night?
Dude, listen, do the senior night before the game. Or at halftime. What are you doing?
Listen, hey, man, one of my favorite Texas basketball moments. Do you remember this? 2003, TJ Ford spoiling Hollis Price's senior game?
Yes, absolutely.
Game. Yeah, adorable. I mean, and I was thinking, like, why are they doing this after the game? They have to celebrate the seniors after you just lost a game like that? With Texas coming back on them?
Learn your lesson from every high school team ever and do it before the game or at halftime. It's so simple.
Yes. That's it.
I don't understand. That's a listen, dude. This is the complex. This is the mind complex that Oklahoma State creates for themselves, right? It's a victim mentality. They play a victim mentality. You know, people can say whatever they want about Oklahoma and even Texas, but we rarely go around saying, woe is me, right? We might gripe about something or get a chip on our shoulder about something. But it's not this, why they celebrate? Why? It's like, you know, when a team wins, they win. I don't know. That's just classic Oklahoma State. And I am not going to be upset about not having to play them in sports. You know, I think I'm ready. I think I'm kind of almost done. You know, it's like, whatever, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, you're right.
Good luck with the guys in the
real quick.
Go ahead.
No, that is a big win for both those girls teams. And I think they needed it. And I'll tell you what I'm happy about is that Baylor didn't win. I hate Baylor women's basketball. I know that one lady isn't there anymore.
Left. Yeah,
I know that Kim Mulkey.
Still good,
but I still don't like
LSU her. Now. Oh man,
dude, LSU deserves her. Doesn't LSU deserve her?
Yes,
she is the. She might be the Urban Meyer of women's.
Yeah, basketball. I was about to say this is like Urban Meyer. Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
What a horrible human being. Horrible. Yeah. Hey, Kevin, this was fun. Have a great evening. Stay dry out here in the rain. Boomer.
Hook 'em.